Hello, my name is Anthony. I'm a peer advisor here at the UCR Career Center, and today I will be presenting you the workshop for part-time job search and resume writing. So our agenda is to go over two specific topics, resume and job search strategies. For the agenda in the resume section, we're going to go over what is a resume, formatting, content, do's and don'ts, and then extra resources to help with developing the resume. As for the job search strategies, we're going to go over types of part-time opportunities, job search resources, and preparation before the application. Now, just to quickly touch upon the NACE career readiness competencies, these are all qualities that employers, a large majority of employers agreed upon that are very valuable for a potential applicant to have. Things like communication, critical thinking, teamwork, they are all very valuable in an applicant, but what strengthens the person's chances of landing a job opportunity is if, let's say, in a resume, when they're writing their bullet points and they're talking about having teamwork skills, don't just write skills, teamwork, communication, and don't just put in your bullet points, or just write, I have teamwork skills, use teamwork skills. Say how you've used those skills. So if you were in a club setting and you had to organize meetings and lead presentations, maybe write a bullet point like led group presentations on topics about campus to new students and within a group setting, like planned events within a group to increase member engagement. So it's one thing to say that you have this skill, but it's another thing to say how you have this skill. So whether it's in a resume, a cover letter, or even in your interview, because in an interview they might ask you, so tell me about a time you've had teamwork, you had to work in a team. You're not just going to say, oh, I have teamwork skills, I have it. No, you're going to say, oh, from my time doing this, I did this in a team, doing this and that. In the same way, you're going to be that level of descriptive within your cover letter, within the bullet points of your resume, and that is how you can increase your chances to really emphasize your skill sets. So what you'll learn today at the end of this workshop is you'll be able to start developing your resume with your academic and non-academic experiences, identify how to build your resume writing skills and job search strategies, and list the resources and tools to help you find job and experiential learning opportunities. So first we're going to go over resume writing. Now, the question, what is a resume? Well, it's an assortment of different things. It's your overview of experiences, everything you've done since high school to now, going forward, a list of all those experiences you've had. It's going to be a collection of your qualifications and credentials, specific relevant background that you have. It's going to be updated on a regular basis, so your resume is going to look different from today to next year to the year after. It's a changeable document, which means you don't use the same resume for everything. You wouldn't apply with you wouldn't apply your resume, the same one, to go take it to McDonald's and then take that same resume to the ARC to as a tutor, and you wouldn't take that same resume for a front desk clerk position at the hub. So it's supposed to always be tailored to whatever job you're applying for, and that's what makes it a changeable document. And also, it's the first impression, aside from if you ever get the chance to speak with a hiring manager before you give them your resume, but that will be their first impression of what you can speak upon your experiences and skill sets. And again, the qualifications you have for what makes you qualified for a potential job opportunity. Now, the format is supposed to be your most recent but also your most relevant experiences, because if you have college experiences that you could speak on, it's better to prioritize putting those first since they're sooner than your high school experiences. However, if for example all you've done in high school is just, clubs and you working and dining and you're trying to apply for a tutoring position, but the last time you did anything related to tutoring was your senior year of high school, then bring that higher up on your resume to mention that since it's most relevant. So it's always going to be most recent, most relevant, depending on what it is you're applying for. And then keeping it like this is how you make it easier to read, effective, and to highlight most relevant experiences. Because again, going to go more in depth to this later, you're always going to keep your resume one page, because the longer you make it, the less time you give an employer to see all the qualifications necessary to see about why you should be picked for the position you applied for. Because most employers look at a resume for less than 30 seconds. So if you don't give them that chance to keep everything concise, to see everything in a quick skim through, then they might not pick you because they can't see all the qualifications that are relevant for why you should be in that role. So when you write your header, there's two ways to make it. However, it's better, in my opinion, to keep it the way it looks at the top so that you can eliminate as much white space and create more space to write your experiences, fill in more bullet points, more detailed bullet points, because this bottom one would take up more space. So it's would be preferred. Also, you don't have to put your full address. All you need is your city and state. Your LinkedIn is optional, but you're definitely always going to want to put your primary email that you always use most and then your phone number. The next thing on a resume is an objective, which is optional. This is necessary for those who feel they do not have enough things to speak about on their resume. So in order to fill in the gaps of white space, they can add an objective, which helps with building a sort of a level of interest to why you're applying for a specific position. So it doesn't need to be no more than 2 lines, and it can be something as simple. If you want to work for UCR Dining, you can write your objective to obtain a position at UCR Dining. If you want a job at Deckers Outdoor Corporation, you could mention in your objective to obtain a summer marketing internship position at Deckers Outdoor Corporation. So it's there as an option to increase showing your level of interest to the potential employer whose job you're applying for. Now the next part in your resume, right after your contact info, or if you add an objective, right after your objective, would be your education. So this will be including your most recently earned degrees or degrees you're currently in pursuit of. So if you did not get an associate's degree, let's say at a community college you attended, then you wouldn't put your community college there. But if you took relevant courses that you would want to mention, you can simply just put it underneath UCR, for example, since those credits transferred over. But if you did, this is how it would look like with organizing it. So no matter what school you go to, it's always important to bold and highlight the specific degree that you earned. On the right side, it'll be your graduation dates or expected graduation dates. And if you achieved any minors, like a minor in philosophy or something, you can add that as well. Any double majors and any relevant courses, again, that would help with whatever job you're currently applying for. Experiences listed on a resume can be many things. It can be a paid work experience, an unpaid work experience. It could be presentations you did in a class setting, in a public speaking setting. It could be service within a club or student organization, formal or informal faculty research, volunteering, internships, class projects, labs, or major assignments. Like if you had a big coding assignment that you had to do for a CS project, then you can add that into within like a projects category. Now you might be wondering, how do I talk about my experience? So let's say that you had a job as a cashier. You wouldn't just mention that you cleaned tables and assisted customers, because You want to go more in depth as how we always discuss with the TAR method, task, action, result. What was the task you did? How did you complete it? With what action? And then what was the result of it all? So think to yourself, what did you do? Okay, as a cashier, I processed food orders and performed cashiering duties. What skills did you build? You reconciled $1,500 in receipts every day. So that's an example. Think about, remember, task, action, results. You efficiently processed food orders, that's the task, and performed cashiering duties in a high volume restaurant establishment. The result, reconciling $1,500 in receipts nightly. When it comes to accomplishments or awards, don't just say got Arts Achievement Award. Think about details like what was it for? Arts Achievement Award for leading the Riverside Arts Initiative. That more detail could really build on your sense of expertise, professionalism. What did you do in the experience? Think about, like, if this was a volunteer opportunity, you could write in the bullet point that, or thinking about it, oh, you assisted in local communities to explore arts through collaborative work and engagement through interactions and activities. So if you wanted to be more precise and talk about your award or accomplishment, you could write underneath, achieve the Arts Achievement Award for leading the Riverside Arts Initiative, allowing local communities to explore arts through collaborative examination, engaging interaction, and thoughtfully planned activities. Here's another example when it comes to focusing on that TAR method, task, action, result. So this is a lifeguard experience, and here you have, they taught summer swimming classes for up to 15 children ages 5 to 10. So that's the task. They had to teach these swimming classes. The action, they did it by executing new swimming techniques, okay? And what was the result? To focus on core techniques and safety. So this gives in a more in depth than just saying taught kids swimming. You're specifying that task, that action, that results, using action verbs like monitored, assisted, again, because this creates that more sense of professionalism, that level of detail that would make it easier to apply to different kinds of positions if they specified something like this of what they're looking for. Other types of skills that you could showcase within your resume are technical hard skills. These can include computer skills, something as simple as just using Microsoft Office Suite, like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, maybe Google Office Suite if you know how to use Google Docs, Google Slides, Gmail. If you know any programming languages like C++, HTML, or also social media if you were applying for like a social media role or a marketing position, so you could showcase the types of social media you have familiarity with using. Another hard skill that's really good to put on your resume is language, especially if you're fluent in at least two, because that could showcase your comfortability with working with different populations of people, not only just with those that speak English, but let's say those that speak Spanish, those that speak Chinese, those that speak Korean. It's all helpful to showcase because, especially if it's required for the job, because there's some jobs that are specifically hiring someone that's bilingual in two specific languages. So if you happen to be fluent in those two and you specify somewhere that you are, like in the hard skills section, that would be competitive and beneficial to add to your resume. Also, if you're applying to a research position or a laboratory role, then adding all the lab skills you have, anything like amino acid analysis, uh, um, let's say just computer data analysis, DNA extraction, quantification, all of those things, if you have any familiarity with any of them, it would be very beneficial to add because, again, it would showcase your qualifications. Other things that you could add to your resume also include campus involvements, professional affiliations, activities, like if you're a part of any fraternities or sororities, any professional student organizations. Again, going back to your degree, you can add relevant coursework if it's more relevant for the position you're applying for. Those laboratory skills, again, if you are applying to a lab position. And then Bonus, tailoring your experience sections. So even though all of your experiences for the time being might not be paid work experience, you don't have to label it work experience. You could label it relevant experience. If they're asking for specific leadership roles and you were president of a club, maybe a higher ranking member of a student org, you can label your experiences under leadership experience. If they're asking for volunteer experiences, tailor it, say volunteer experiences. And if there is a general resume, again, you can separate it into different sections. And again, being specific, not just labeling these as experiences, but in their respective categories so that you can give yourself the best impression when making your resume. Some additional tips to remember is, again, keep it 1 page maximum for your resume, because most employers go through hundreds of resumes, dozens and dozens. So the more concise you can keep it, the better that they'll be able to quickly skim through your resume and decide if they should give you an interview or not. And then also, again, going back to that 10-second glance that a lot of employers take with each resume, it's best to keep the most relevant experiences first. So if there's something you feel would be better suited to keep on a certain part of the resume for an application you're filling out, move it to whatever is more relevant. Tailoring your resume to the position. So if you have a position in mind, look at the job description and decide for yourself if anything seems familiar to you. Try to incorporate those characteristics, those specific bullet points about what they're asking for into your bullet points about a experience you've had that you're familiar with those specific requirements for the duties you're going to be doing. Using industry language to describe experience. So again, going back to the action verbs list, focusing on starting your bullet points with action verbs the same way they start theirs with action verbs on their job applications. Again, including relevant experiences, whether it's paid or unpaid or volunteer, high school experiences until your later college years, right? Unless you have no experiences up to your third and fourth years, and you can continue using those. And try not to use personal pronouns when you write your bullet points, like I did this within a group and this happened and I did this. It's about those action verbs engaged in communication with group to contribute to group cohesion, to continue with group project assignments. Using those appropriate verb tenses. So if you're working at a job currently, then you'll label your action verbs in the present. So engaging in group events, assisting with planning of meetings. But if it's something that you did in the past, you're not working for anymore, or you're not a part of anymore, then you would change the tense, so engaged in, assisted in. So it's more specific to what is currently being done in the present to what you were doing in the past. Also, definitely check the spelling and grammar, because all of that is important. And as you're looking it over, it's just proper to make sure that it's as error-free as possible. Now I'm just going to go a little in depth into some part-time job search strategies. So the different types of part-time job opportunities could include student on-campus employment, working here at UCR, for dining, for the library, for the ARC, for any department that requires student employees. That's an opportunity where you could seek employment. Any internships that are paid or unpaid, that could be virtual, they could be off campus. Any other part-time jobs that are off campus, so maybe any jobs at the UV, maybe at the local Denny's or IHOP, maybe at the substation near Bannockburn. So these are other opportunities that you could seek. Research opportunities, sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not, but they're still good opportunities to seek out to add to your resume if you have an interest in pursuing something related to that in the future. Also, volunteer opportunities. There are so many student organizations, things that you could take part in on campus that can contribute to that level of experience that you could eventually continue adding and improving on within your resume. And again, student organizations that host a lot of these volunteering opportunities. Some of the job search resources that are at your disposal include the Career Center, which you can visit to see a peer advisor like myself for 15 minutes, and I could show you more job search strategies that you could take upon yourself to use. You can make an appointment with a career specialist, and if you're seeking internships with something related to your career prospect, then they can assist you with that more in depth. Or you could go to our Career Center library and see all the different books related to how to go about finding jobs, maybe taking a look at our rotational flyers that come in and out every now and then. So there could be a potential research position, volunteer position, work position, and we're holding a flyer that you could look up and join. Or again, look at the magazines in our Career Center and see the different job opportunities that are available to you. There's digital resources like Handshake, again for those on-campus positions, or off-campus, LinkedIn, job boards, social media, and a bunch of other job search sites that aren't specifically listed here that we could share with you if you do visit us peer advisors at a drop-in. Also, there are in-person and virtual opportunities such as career fairs, which we host at least one a quarter, sometimes as much as four. So this specific fall quarter, we're having four. Who knows how many we're having next quarter, but there's always going to be one. And then even as alumni, you could always come back. Even having graduated 5 years down the line, as long as you're a UCR alumni, you're always welcome to come back to any of our job fairs and potentially find new employment if that's what you're interested in doing. And we also have virtual job fairs too. They work similarly, but they're more for sometimes they're for networking, sometimes they are opportunities for employment there as well. So if you can't go in person, you can go to a virtual one, and same rules apply. Handshake, again, is where you can find a lot of on-campus roles, but also if you wanted something off-campus, maybe a full-time job, part-time job, an internship, you can use a search filter and tailor it specifically to what it is you might be looking for. But a pro tip is to keep it from being too specific because the more specific you get, the harder it might be able to find more opportunities related to what you're interested in. So if you were looking for maybe a let's say a Spanish tutor role, maybe you might only be able to find a regular tutor role on just like English or math. But if you're interested in tutoring, maybe focus more so on tutoring as opposed to that specific, like, let's say, Algebra 2 tutor. But again, you can also do different things like looking locally. So even if you can't find something on campus or close to campus, you could look at something maybe 15 miles within the school, maybe 10 miles within where you live, if you're a commuter and it's hard driving from the school to a new opportunity back where you live. And if you're continuing to look for more opportunities, you can go on job boards like Indeed, Idealist, simplyhire.com, AmeriCorps.gov. And the best thing to do when you do find a position you're interested in is try to find out if they have an official website that you can apply for. Because even though it's easy to apply on Indeed, it will lead to a longer response time because if you apply on a third party website like Indeed, they have to log in manually to look at any potential applicants. But if you apply directly to their website, then you'll get a quicker response whether you might be due for an interview or not. There are also opportunities to connect virtually with potential employers or job opportunities. Again, LinkedIn, there's so many members that are there, so many UCR alumni that you could reach out to for advice or assistance in just looking for potential opportunities that relate to your future career. Connecting on Facebook, family, friends. Maybe there's somebody you know that's looking to hire somebody in their firm, someone in their company. On Twitter, all kinds of different news that you could find there on Instagram, such as like our UCR Career Center, where we'll occasionally post different positions if an employer wants us to promote it. So All of them are acceptable methods, but it just depends how you use them. One quick tip that you could take on if you do decide to use social media for job search is to follow internship pages, maybe a student organization that can connect you with potential opportunities, something like Ascend, something like, something that can connect you with more internships that maybe they have on their website, maybe they have in their Instagram page. Also using hashtags where you could find more potential internships that might relate to what you're interested in. But it's just about tailoring it specifically. And when you do use these methods to really be proactive and reaching out, maybe you could find somebody that knows about these different internship fields you're trying to get into and then just asking around because again, you can always ask your fellow peers and maybe somebody knows something you don't and then you could benefit from getting to know about that. Another resource again includes our career fairs. So we always have one, at least one once a quarter, multiple different types of specific job themes. So we could have a general one where local businesses could come visit, maybe a STEM related one, and even a graduate school fair. So if you are interested in seeking higher education, like a master's degree, going to medical school, law school, then you could really get affiliated with some of these admissions officers and ask them those, hard hitting questions like how can I enter your program? What can I do to best improve my chances? Maybe you can visit an employer at a career fair and ask them, what can I do to really land a position within your company? What can I do to improve my chances? So even if you don't seek a job opportunity at the specific time you go, maybe in your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, you can always gain knowledge and more information to prepare you for when you are ready to land that job. And again, you still are able to come back as an alumni if you ever would like. So to reiterate, there's all kinds of different methods for networking in person and virtual, going to the career center, going to information sessions, maybe there are our Ask Me Anything series, maybe we might have visits from health professionals that want to give more information to undergraduate students, and workshop opportunities with employers, like if somebody's having a coffee chat. Target is handing out internships to students that are interested, giving them out applications to sign up. So there's opportunities to network there. At our UCR campus, with many of our student organizations, events that any student alumni associations have, maybe at the Alumni Center, something that you could keep in mind with after you graduate. Maybe it's speaking with the professor during office hours. Maybe speaking to a TA who might know a little more about potential opportunities. Going off campus, going to hiring fairs for the city of Riverside. Maybe large scale city events, speaking to potential professionals. For example, at a one student org, this one law club they were visited by a panel of judges and the judges let them know, hey, if any of you are wanting to set a date and time to have lunch with me, you can always email me and we can schedule a time for it and we could discuss more about going and practicing law. So again, always being proactive will benefit you, especially if the intention is to network, grow your circle, grow your connections, and hopefully land an opportunity with the help of those connections in the future. Other things to consider if you are having difficulty finding a job on campus, maybe near campus, then you can always visit any other shopping centers in the nearby Riverside area from again the University Village, Canyon Springs, the Moreno Valley Mall, Riverside Plaza, the Galleria at Tyler, Victoria Gardens, Ontario Mills, Cabazon, Lake Elsinore outlets. So if you're a commuter, you can keep these locations in mind, especially if you can drive, and go visit them, seek employment there, and then accompany that with going to school to UCR, because some of these locations aren't too far. Some are less than 10 miles. But if you happen to live near any of these, then that's beneficial because, for example, you could work on the weekends. You could work nights and then still go to class in the mornings and have time for your academics. But just depends on your availability, depends on the amount of time you have to focus on each thing. But if you ever need a job before the summer, maybe find employment here, work the whole summer, and then if you realize you can't balance it with school, then you can drop it, focus on school. But these are other examples of places that you could visit, again, with finding potential employment. Other ways to consider your location are checking out local opportunities at the amusement parks that you live near, any hotels, any retail or department stores. Here in Riverside, we have Castle Park. It's down the 91. You could go check it out, see what kind of job opportunities are there, get discounts. Now you could go work at an amusement park. If you live near Anaheim, go try finding employment at Disneyland. If go to Buena Park, Knott's Berry Farm, SeaWorld, Magic Mountain, which is pretty far, but it's something that you could also consider if you're looking for employment for the summer and while you're pursuing your degree or after. Lastly, things to have ready once you've developed those job search methods and are intent on finding employment. You can prepare that resume. If they need a cover letter, prepare your cover letter. If they require references, try to keep in mind people that you know you could ask to have as a reference so that you can really improve your chances. They could speak highly on the work you've done, maybe you as a person, why you would be worthy of hiring for another job opportunity in the future. You can utilize the Career Center to schedule mock interview practice with a peer advisor. And also, you can schedule a mock interview or a job search appointment with your career specialist. Another thing to keep in mind while you are looking for potential employment is to beware of job fraud because there are a lot of opportunities that might sound too good to be true. And the reason for that is because they want to lure in potential applicants to take their information, maybe make them send them money, find a way to get some use out of them without offering them a legitimate role in return. So looking out for red flags if they're asking you to shop for them, getting them a gift card, ordering them something to mail them, sending them money. A job opportunity asking for upfront costs, especially if it is unpaid, can be questionable. Again, thinking about if it's too good to be true, if it's a virtual job that's work from home, if it's a high paying job, if they don't ask for a lot of qualifications, if it's easy to get in, it could be worth questioning and looking more into. If the job they offer isn't the one you applied for, so it might again go back to, I wonder why that is. That's a little strange. Maybe another thing, if they won't meet you in person, especially if it's an in-person role, could be another thing to look out for. If you can't verify their information, if they don't, you're trying to apply for a specific role, but you can't find a business license, you don't have somebody's name to attach to the company, they're asking for personal information before you're even hired. That's a little strange because that usually comes after employment. And if you're working from home, some of these can be too good to be true, so it's always important to really look in depth about them. And if you ever have any questions, you ever need a second opinion, call the Career Center at 951-827-3631. Questions? If you have any questions, you can again always call the Career Center, always email us at career counseling, or you can walk into the Career Center, talk to the front desk or whoever might be available, and again, ask your questions then and there. Sometimes we've had students come in with a job offer and ask us, does this look like a scam? And we could give them our honest opinion. One time somebody was mailed a fake check and they wanted to make sure that this was a real opportunity, and we let them know in advance this is a scam. We are located across from the Arc at Sky Hall, next to the University Lecture Hall, and underneath the UCR bookstore. We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Here's the QR code to our website, the QR code to our peer advising drop-in hours, and the website link, careers.ucr.edu, and our number that you can call if you ever need to schedule an appointment, ask a question, or again, have something that you need to share, for example, a potential job scam that you want to make sure, you can always come in, call us. We can help you out. And lastly, if you want to continue keeping in touch, you can be made aware about any upcoming events, any news that we have going on at the Career Center. If you follow our Instagram, it's completely optional, but you are always welcome to check it out.